fight. I mean, and you mentioned it, Gareth, a bit earlier, that why do it? What's the want? I sometimes look at it a bit differently. I sometimes look at it from, okay, what fight makes most money for fighters? Whereas Jack will probably thinking, okay, no, I want a world title shot now. I want my world title shot. I want to mix it with the best. That's now in the rear view. I beat him twice, Jack would probably think. Why do I need to do it again?
Yeah, and I think promotionally, in terms of getting the fans there, we most of us feel, as we spoke about just now, that Catterall won the first fight anyway. It feels like a 2-0. It was very comprehensive that he won this fight, I believe. And if they were to do it again, I could see them doing it at 147, potentially. But I think I'd much rather see Josh Taylor now in a fight with, let's say, Chris Eubank would be, not Chris Eubank, Conor Benn would be perfect for him if Conor Benn had a British license. That kind of fight. Not a Dalton Smith, not one of those young upcoming studs, if you like, of the division. I think Catterall deserves a bigger night as well. That what you were talking about just now about would he feel disappointed? The air that he feels that now he never had held those undisputed belts. It's not down on his legacy. He needs to be able to chase a Tio Lopez or a Keyshawn Davis or one of those guys at 140 who is a name. And I think he deserves it. Fully deserves it.
Yeah, obviously, look, Keyshawn doing his thing at 135 has spoken about going up to 140, so that could happen. You look at the champions at 140, Sabril Matias, the IBF champion, Isaac Cruz, obviously a champion now, the WBA champion. You mentioned Teofimo Lopez, and Devin Haney, still the WBC champion. In terms of the matchups against the champions, the 4 champions I just mentioned, who potentially do you think he could match up well against?
I rate Pitbull Cruz, I really rate him. He could enter that group that we talk about all the time, the 6-7 young Americans and Basil Lomachenko. Devin Haney's a tough fight for anyone, although on the eye, look what happened to him his last contest. Jack fights in a very staunch way and fights within himself. I think they're all very tough fights, but I think Matias, if Eddie Hearn could go after Matias, that would be the one I'd be going for right now.
Yeah, the Matias one is, I guess, the easiest one to make. For Jack, it's probably the toughest one, but it's the easiest one, obviously, because he's working under the zone. Matias got a fight against Liam Parrow coming up. You mentioned Josh there. Look, I think this is maybe where we have a bit of a disagreement, which doesn't happen much on this show. I just feel like I feel like he still looks really sharp, Josh. And look, I think we all had it as a really, really close fight. It certainly wasn't a blowout. I still think he's very much there. Maybe not a top 10 guy, but very much a guy that could still give a lot of the champions some problems. Don't say he'll beat them. But I'm with you. I like the Conor Benn shout because I do think he does need to go to 147. And that's a fight that both of them will talk it, both of them will sell it. And again, it goes back to Conor Benn getting his license. And we wait and see what happens there. There seems to be a bit of revisionism with Josh Taylor, where now people are starting to downplay his achievements. I almost feel like he's one of the most underrated and underappreciated champions we've had for a long time. This guy was undisputed champion. I mean, we've been talking recently about a lot of undisputed fights. He was undisputed champion, and he beat everyone he could beat. And I almost feel like there's a bit of, I don't know if it's disrespect because of the way in which he handled the Jack Tatchell fight the first time round. But I almost feel like he needs to be given his flowers a bit more.
Oh, I don't know. I think when he won the Super Series, when he went on that run, when his opponents were something like 120 and 2 losses, his last 5 opponents, when he was ranked top 10 pound for pound in the Ring magazine rankings, by the way, I think he got to 5 or 6 from memory. He was certainly 9 at one point in the pound for pound rankings with Ring magazine, and they do count in my view. No, I think he got quite a lot of love. I think he got a lot of love when he beat Jose Ramirez. I think he was appreciated with the wins against Baranchik and Regis Prograis, and he made it to undisputed. And then I think where he may have not got enough credit was because it was COVID, and that fight with the undisputed fight in Vegas with the Mexican was a moment where, remember, he flew back. We met him at an airport, a private airport where he flew back to, and he lost his belts on the way home and all that kind of stuff. No, I think he was appreciated. I think he will be appreciated in time. You know, he is talked about as one of the greatest Scots alongside Ken Buchanan. I'm sounding like I'm signing him off here, aren't I? And I don't want to see Josh go on too long, by the way. I think he's going to have to step up to welterweight. I think he was very gaunt at the weight. I think tight at the weight did affect him. And I've been close with Josh for a long time and followed his career very, very closely. And I just think they need to take a long, hard look at where he goes next, rather than pitting him against, a lot of the young, very talented up-and-coming fighters. Like, I don't think Dalton Smith beats Josh Taylor, but I don't want to see him go in and have a war with a Dalton Smith for 10 or 12 rounds.
Yeah, no, I get that, right? And as you say, timing's everything in boxing. And Dalton's fresh, he's young, he's a big 140. So maybe it is time that Josh Taylor moves up to 147. And look, maybe it's the right time. Apart from Jaron Ennis, you look at the sort of the 147 division, and it's not loaded with super talent. Virgil Ortiz has gone up as well. So Josh might look at it and think there could be a run there potentially at someone like a Barrios, who didn't look great in his last fight on the Canelo Nogueira card. So he might look at that and think there's a chance there.
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's got to take time. It's got to take time and just assess at the moment. I think look, Catterall, I just think Catterall's style was always a problem for Josh. It was the same problems in this fight till Catterall fatigued as it was in the first fight. That he's got great range, great defense, stands really well. You need to have a lot more lateral movement against Catterall. And listen, I don't want to say that Josh is finished, but I just don't want him to take too much more. As simple as that.
Yeah, we'll probably be talking about another fighter who is in that category, if not further deep down that category a bit later on the show. A big heavyweight fight announced for July on a Queensberry card. Quickly, just before we wrap this section, Bob Arum, who you've known for 30 plus years, you see him jumping in the ring at nearly 93 years of age. Given his thoughts on the scorecards, I love the energy. I love what he's doing. I love how he's in there protecting his man, Josh Taylor. And I don't mind that. Some people were against it. I was like, give him the mic. Let Bob, if Bob's there, let Bob talk.
Listen, I thought we were going to do a whole section today on that moment with Bob, and I'd quite like to. I've got a lot to say about it. Can't just sign off very quickly on it. He took the heat off Taylor. He showed that he's the GOAT in these things. Everybody suddenly gasped when Bob was on the mic. And this is ridiculous. When he shows his stones, everyone wants to listen to Bob because he is the epitome of promotional brilliance. He goes in there, gets the microphone. He's 92 years old. He's taking on 13,000 people in the arena who know that Catterall's just beaten Taylor, and he's putting two fingers up to everyone because he doesn't give a stiff about it. And at the same time, he's taking all the heat off his guy. He's making his guy feel really good. You saw the shots of Taylor and his wife, and it was like, oh, I've just been beaten up, but someone's talking me up, and this is making me feel so good. And he also projected that idea of a trilogy. He just projected it. He is, if not the greatest promoter, he's arguably one of the greatest promoters we've ever seen in the sport. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And people are still talking about it. The clip's gone viral. Bob doesn't know what viral is because he doesn't do internet and online and social media very much. But it was a brilliant moment, Addy, as you know. Brought the house down, didn't it?
No, it certainly did. I remember I was there sort of, and I just see him grab the mic. First of all, I see him making his way into the ring, and I'm like, how is he even getting through the ropes at 92? Like, how's he doing this? Honestly, and I mean, I completely agree with you. He is the greatest promoter we've ever seen. I mean, I know some will listen to this and say Don King, and look, Don King had an amazing run from the 60s until the mid-90s, but Bob's longevity in the sport is just sensational. The fact he's done an event in Japan with Inoue, and then he done an event a week later, Loma versus Kambosos in Australia, and then he's part of what's going on in Saudi Arabia, and then these guys fighting in Leeds. He's all over. He is the definition of a global promoter, and without a doubt, for me, the greatest promoter we've ever seen.
And even bigger than that, where did he start? In the Kennedy administration, investigating boxing, and he meets Ali. Unbelievable story.
Honestly, incredible. Long may Bob continue to do what he does in the sport.